This week's Nightcap show will be a panel discussion with our teachers. We will have representation from Nigeria, United States of America, England, and of course Jamaica. Come and listen to the perspectives of our teachers in a global way as it pertains to the classroom setting. Are our children still interested in the teaching space? COVID has changed the dynamic of the classroom. Come and join in this conversation. Don't let it miss you. We will be listening to our teachers' global perspective. This week's topic, the art of teaching, adjusting to the new era of learning. You simply can't afford to miss this week's Nightcap show with your host, Charlene Clark Cura. Don't miss this one. This week's Nightcap show is brought to you by LD's Jamaica Art, the finest art in town, located at shop number 48, Ocean Village Shopping Center, Ocho Rios, St. Anne. You can call them at 974-2764 or 896-1288. LD's Jamaican Art, the finest art in town. Yes. Welcome to the Nightcap show with your host, Charlene Clark Cura. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so very much for joining us yet another Sunday to tune into this very important discussion. This week, we have some very important people with us, and we are going to have a discussion, a well-needed discussion where we need to hear what is happening in our classroom, what is happening with our teachers. But before we begin this discussion, just a few reminders. You may participate this week by sharing your message in the chat, as this show for this week is pre-recorded. And so because it's a pre-recorded show, naturally you can't call in with your questions, but we will be here behind the scenes to answer your questions. Just provide us your questions in the chat and we will be happy to respond. Thank you so very much and welcome to the Nightcap program. Now let us begin today's show, and as you already heard, the topic for this Sunday is the art of teaching, adjusting to the new era of learning. And so the first teacher I'd like to introduce to you this Sunday is none other than Candice Breadwood. Candice, welcome to the Nightcap show, and thank you for joining us all the way from United States of America. Welcome.
Thank you so much. My
Tell
name
us
is
a little bit
Candice
about
Breadwood,
you.
like
Yes.
you stated. I have been teaching for over 25 years. I started in Jamaica at I think it was 1997. I did 6 years, and then I migrated to America, particularly Florida, and I started doing exceptional education, that's special education. And so I have been doing that until now. I've done elementary, I've done high school, and now I am back to middle school.
Okay, welcome. There's a question, but it's a rhetorical question, Candice.
Sure.
Why is it that our teachers always, despite the frustration, despite the stress, despite the challenges, they're always able to maintain this youthful look. Because you're telling me that you started in 1997, which means to me, if I should judge you just based on how you look, it means that you would probably start teaching at the age of 10. But it's a natural it's a natural gift for teachers, because I mean, even when I see some of my teachers who taught me in primary school, that don't look a day older. So, I mean, you have that gift. But welcome and thank you. Thank you for joining us, Candice. And so, viewers, I have another teacher I'd like you to meet, and I am going to allow her to introduce herself. This is Winifred. Welcome to the Nightcap Show, Winifred. You are on.
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Winifred Odunoku from Nigeria. I'm a Teach for Nigeria fellow, but unlike Candace, I've just been in the teaching profession for give or take almost 2 years. So I'm very much new to the teaching world, so to say. I'm so glad to be here today.
Thank you for joining, Winifred. Pronounce your surname again for me, please.
Okay, that's Odunoku.
Odunoku, right? Winifred Odunoku. I didn't pronounce it because I am great at botching people's names, so I didn't try to pronounce it.
That's it.
So Odunoku, welcome. Thank you for joining. And let me introduce our next teacher who is on our platform, and this is Riza Cure. She has my surname because we are special. Welcome, Riza Cure from United States. She is actually my sister-in-law. Okay. Welcome, Riza. Could you
Thank you.
just give us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been teaching?
Yes. So, obviously, my name is Riza Cura. I am a teacher in South Florida, and I have been teaching since 2016. So this year would be my 6th year teaching. So not so long, but I'm getting into the groove of things. And yes.
So you started your teaching profession in the United States.
Yes, I started teaching in the US, and I actually have been at the same location since I started.
Okay. Wow. All right. Welcome. Thank you
Thank
for introducing yourself. And the final teacher, well, no, the second to last teacher I want to introduce. He is keeping the balance here. And this is Clive Rowe. Welcome, Clive Rowe from Jamaica. Let us hear a little bit about you and how long you've been teaching.
Hi, good day, everyone. Thanks for having me on. Of course, I'm Clive Rowe, and I've been teaching for 35 years. I'm a teacher at profession. I consider myself more an educator than a teacher,
Right.
and I am an assessor and an auditor, both for City and Guilds and NCT Vet.
Wow. Okay. Welcome. You're wearing many hats. All right. Thank you. And our final teacher, she is Sherwin Gonzalez. And she's joining us audio only because she's unable to share her camera due to the fact that she's traveling, but she wanted to participate in this show. We appreciate your participation, Sherwin. You are on. Could you introduce yourselves to our guests?
Hi everybody. I'm Shaween Gonzalez. I'm originally from St. Lucia, but I've been living in London for about 17 years. And I've been a teacher only 5 years.
Five
So
years.
not that long. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm been teaching business studies and travel and tourism for the past 5 years.
Business studies and travel and tourism.
Yeah, that's
So it
correct.
means, therefore, that you are teaching the upper age group.
That's right. I teach from 13 years old all the way up to, well, degree level.
Okay, 13 up and upward. No upward, no age limit in terms of.
No, because I teach A level and degree level as well.
Okay, thank you so very much, and thank you for joining. Now, Let us jump right into the discussion right here. Now, we have been hearing a lot about the teaching space, what is happening in our classrooms, what is happening with our children, whether or not our children wants to learn anymore. We have been seeing many things happening in our classrooms, from the indiscipline to I mean, persons barging in our classroom, taking the lives of teachers and children. A lot of things is happening in the space. And so we just want to touch on some of these things to understand from your perspective what it is like as a teacher in your space. Now, I decided to have a representation from as many countries as possible because we want to do a comparison to see if it is just in one area or, we are experiencing similar situation wherever we are as teachers. So the first thing, let us discuss about the classroom setting. Since you've been teaching, I think Sherwin is 5 years, Clive has the most, which is 35 years. Riza is about 5 years or so as well. And Candice is over 25 years. Have you recognized significant differences in the classroom as it pertains to the responses from your children, from the students? Let's start with Riza, and then we can flow.
Okay, so when I first started, and I teach high school, when I first started, I was teaching mostly upperclassmen, so they're ages 16 through 18, my juniors and seniors. And they were very happy to have someone who, they always say that I look like a student because I'm short, but then also I have a youthful appearance. So they always had that feeling as if I was not that far away from them in age, although I am. They felt that I was a little bit more relatable. So they had a lot of questions. They were very interested in secondary, education. They wanted to know all about college. They were very ready to learn all of the tools that I was ready to give them, as far as how to operate when you go into post-secondary institutions and, what kind of note-taking they should be taking, how they should operate, how they should speak, how they should send emails, correspondence. I was giving them a lot of information like that, and they were grasping, holding onto it, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. Whereas now, that is not the case. Not the case. They are.
I see you're laughing, Clive. Can you relate? Hold on, let me hear. I see Clive, interject with a smile there. Can you relate somewhat, Clive? And
Most
Clive, I
definitely.
should say to you, is from Jamaica. He's a teacher. He's an educator, residing in Jamaica. Yes, Clive. I see you
Most
laughing there.
most definitely. I Some of those sentiments shared are similar to mine. I remember
Yeah.
when I started teaching back in '87. I had I teach in the high school system, but I did have persons that were coming in from the industry, so I teach industry persons as well. And most
Right.
of the industries persons were actually older than I am, and they're enthused about me. I remember one of my first classes I had with a third year group, and these were adults, some managers in the industry. And when I had that group, I remember my first class with them, I was tested. And
Right. Right.
at the end of the class, one of the young men who asked a number of questions said to me, "You're good." And I wanted to see how good could a young man like you be.
Right.
And as of following that, they were so enthused about learning. The students in the high school were enthused about learning. They'll come, they'll ask, and you spend time with them to show them what is going on and have them learning. But
Right.
as time has evolved, what I found is that have changed significantly. Learning has taken second place to the students. So you're trying to tell them, come, let us get on with the work so that you can achieve something. To the point where some of them are telling you that's not important anymore. And it pains your heart to know then that this is how they view learning. Because
Wow.
for us, most of us who are from Jamaica, and I guess maybe Nigeria would have similar problems. We were taught that education is what would take you out of whatever problems you're having.
Out of poverty. Out of
Poverty, to be
poverty.
exact. And
Poverty, when you
this
talk
is,
about education, poverty,
yeah,
poverty was aligned with education. You don't want to be
education.
poor, get a good education.
Yeah. But
Yes,
no, that scenario has changed. And
it's
that is
changed.
why when Riza mentioned it, I had to smile because it was so similar
It's similar to what
in
about you,
USA.
Winifred? Clive made mention of Nigeria to say, well, then, in terms of how we were cultured as it relates to getting good education, he believes it's similar. Could you share?
Yes, definitely. It's very much similar because I remember
Mm-hmm.
when my parents, when they were young, they used to tell us that then in their days, everyone was encouraged to go to school because the moment you finish from college, there's a job
Mm-hmm.
already waiting for you. There's a business you're already going to go into that's so sure is going to take your family out of poverty, right? But during my
Mm-hmm.
time now, when we graduate from school, we are all around roaming the streets looking for jobs that do not exist.
Wow.
And then for people that are younger than us, the kids that I am now teaching as a teacher, most of them they will ask me, Auntie, you say we should go to school, we should come to school. Okay, do you want me to also be a teacher like you when I grow up? Because they are looking at bigger careers, like they want to be an aeronautic engineer and whatnot. And I'm very sure their parents would have been telling them stories of how during their time as well, there was no need to run around after finishing college. You just have everything on the platter of gold before you. But now everything has changed and the struggle is real, literally, and the unemployment rate in Nigeria is so high. So many young people don't want to go to school anymore. In Nigeria, you hear phrases like education as scam. When you hear something like
Wow.
education as scam, they're trying to tell you there's nothing in education. I don't want to be educated because it's a scam. They've used education to
Wow.
scam us. That's what most youths now believe today. And they're passing that mentality to younger children, which is not very good for our education system in Nigeria today. So it's so unfortunate that the enthusiasm that people have towards education in Nigeria of those days is no longer there.
Is no longer there. Candice, what would you say if you were experienced similar situation? What would you say would be the cause for the breakdown in the interest of our children learning?
So there's so many factors that affect our children, factors that affect us as well, but they're they have like social media, they have technology, so many things that affect them. But I always go back to the root of
Mhm,
teaching. When I first started teaching, some of my students, they were almost the same age as I was, but I didn't tell them, of course. And
mhm,
what I teach from two standpoints. So the first standpoint is love. No one
mhm,
runs from love. I was taught that early from an older person in life, that no one
mhm,
runs from love. It doesn't matter how you care, how you behave like you don't care. When it comes on to someone loving you, when it comes on and you not just saying that they love you, but you see it, then they
mhm,
respond well to love. The next
mhm,
component that I teach from is a social emotional component. It's very important. Once you feel love, once your social emotional needs are met, or even if they're not fully met, at least if you see that this person cares about your home life, about the concerns, the challenges, the issues you face, if we
mhm.
spend time to talk to them and not just to, back in Jamaica, it was talk and chalk. I guess now it's whiteboard with dry erase marker, but
And
that
similar to what we're doing now, virtual as well. Don't forget
right.
that.
And you're not just lecturing, but even virtually, what I would do, like when we just had a pandemic, I had like, instead of going into the reading and the math first, I would do on Mondays therapy. So I call it like pet therapy. And you didn't have a pet, you could have like a stuffed animal, whatever was age appropriate at the time. But I had students bring in their dogs and cats, and some would dress up, and they would speak about them, and that helped with the social emotional. And then guess what? The next day, Tuesday, I could start with the reading and the math, because I'd
Mhm,
already set the tone social emotionally, like how do you feel, what happens, how does your dog help you, how does so and so affect you, How do you feel locked up? What are the things that you do? So when you teach from first love, and then it seems like an overused word or cliche, but it's true. I'm telling you, tried and true, no one runs from love. And when they see
And
that,
this was all your initiative based on your observation of the lack of interest in learning from your students.
yes, yes. And once they see that you're interested in what they are interested in, or you can bring their interest into the classroom, then those things, and then the social emotional component, which ties in love as well, then
Well,
I
I'm gonna come
find
back. I'm gonna come right back to that, but let me
no
hear what
problem.
Sherwin has to say. Sherwin, from your
Hi.
perspective, how has it been for you in the classroom? I know you said that you're teaching the upper level, but how has it been for you in terms of the interest that is shown in, learning?
Well, you see, like similar to Candice, for me, it's about reaching those kids because it has changed. And coming to this country, becoming a teacher in this country was a real culture shock to me because I'm coming from somewhere where teaching was or is a very respectable it's a very respectable job. And then coming up here in the UK and entering the classroom, it's very different. I don't think there's that same level of respect for the profession at all. So how do we reach those kids? How do we engage with them in a way that learning will be done? And like Candice, it comes from a place of love. You're not just a teacher at the end of the day. You're a social worker, you're a mom, you're a carer, you fill many hats before you even begin to teach. So it's very important to me to pass that on to my students, in order to reach them, and also to see how well they learn, how best they learn. So what I've done over the pandemic, we had to completely change our teaching styles, in order to reach those kids. So incorporate things we know they use, things we know they engage with. So YouTube, I had some students telling me, I don't know why I have to come to school. I could learn everything from YouTube. Okay, then let's use more YouTube in our lessons then. If that's how you learn best, let's use more YouTube. Let's encourage them to engage more. Let's use more technology in our lessons. And the nice thing about the pandemic, if there is a nice thing, is that it encouraged teachers to engage with more technology in order to teach, and
Yes, in
bring
order to
about the what exactly they want to do. Technology has been there, and now we're using it in such a better way now, and we're
reach
able
our
to reach the
children.
kids because that's how they communicate, through technology, through social media. So we're reaching them using that means. So that's one of the kind of good things that came out.
I hear you saying kind, and I quite understand why, because let us get there. But um, the pandemic, and I'm throwing this out now, let us have a discussion. The pandemic, do you believe, educators, do you believe the pandemic has worsened the situation, or was it this bad before the pandemic? Let's talk a little bit about that. As the pandemic impacted the whole teaching learning relationship, would you say?
um, I will say definitely it has. I mean, the personal face to face is always better. You get to deal with people, with the students, in a way that's more personal, on a more personal level. However, it has made us adapt. I've had to adapt. I've had to. Sometimes you'd think it would take up less time, but it takes up more time sometimes, because in order to reach every student individually, you have to allocate that time to them. So it has taken up more time, but it has made me ensure that these students, I am I am providing for their individual needs. And yeah, it's just doing things differently at the end of the day, and keeping the same ethos of what it is we were doing in the classroom, just taking it online. I think both of them are needed. Both of them, the personal touch is needed as well. But
As
however,
well as
using
well.
technology, I think if it's done correctly and in a way that's engaging, I think it's fine as well.
All right. How about you, Clive? Do you find your students to be different returning to the classroom from the lockdown?
Of course, there. However, my perspective of the pandemic is twofold. It has created a number of negatives. However, I looked at the positives even more. The pandemic has taught us that we are a global space. And just like what would happen in universities across the world, I may be doing a course in the United States and I have to take it verbally, take it visually, because virtual space is what is now doing it. There are some students who are affected negatively by just not being around their friends. So their social life is impacted in a
Right.
negative way.
Right.
However,
Right.
what has it taught us in a positive way? It has taught us the use of technology, and it has shown us where our schools are lacking in certain things that need to be adjusted. I, for one, have always thought from I back in the late 80s, early 90s when I went to college, I started using technology. I remember to this date, my first projection method was one that I would provide my things on slide and project it to my students. When I went into the classroom, there were little or none available for me. I had to get my own.
Right.
Fast forward now, I would want to use, I've noticed YouTube as mentioned. If you're in the classroom in a Jamaica scenario, in most classes, you're not equipped to be showing the students videos.
Right. Right.
For some
Right.
areas, it will be maybe in the United States, some of the schools in the United States would have that readily available. I personally has bought a Mimeo back in 2011 so that I could use technology to teach my students. Today, I have done the same. So when the pandemic came about, unfortunately, it was the latter part of the prior year that I started equipping my students to say, okay, I can now teach if there's anything that I'm unable to attend school, I could teach readily from home.
Right.
So the pandemic has brought us that availability where students are exposed. I remember one of my students said to me, "Sir, I'm happy for this virtual learning space. Because if I was at school, I'd be with friends and I'd be hiding away from class." So he
Right.
said, and that student moved from a student who would normally skulk class to becoming a prefect while the pandemic was on. At the moment we get back to school, his grades started falling again. I would take him and I would sit down with him and say, "Come, you knew right through the pandemic, you said, listen me, I am a better student today. I said, I want you to get back to that stage. How can I help you to get back to that stage?" Because he started falling after going back to school. Because peer pressure is something that affects our students in
Greatly.
the worst way.
Greatly. Greatly.
And
But
that
but,
is
but
what is affecting him.
what I want to let me bring this to the fore, and I hear you and I understand that. But let us look at the balance. While we find some students operating better when they are, in the virtual space, let us talk about those students who they don't have that structure at home, where the teacher was the mother, the teacher was the father, the teacher was the priest, the teacher was the preacher, the teacher was the guidance counselor for them, the teacher was everything for them. And so the teacher was able to groom that child to build them in a better way for the society, right? And so during the pandemic, they were stuck at home, without that type of grooming. How then, for those children, I want to hear a little bit of balance, because most of the times when I talk to teachers, this is what they say to me: listen, the children we get back, we have to start from ground zero. Because while they were at home, they were not properly supervised. We were their hope. Let me hear from you, Winifred.
Thanks so much. Just to quickly say this, I wasn't a teacher during the pandemic. I only joined the profession after the pandemic, which was
After the pandemic.
2021. Yes, so I really don't know, how to answer this question.
Right. So, Riza, let me hear from you. What about those children who you were able to groom and to take to a place where there was hope, and then this light was dimmed somewhat, and they're stuck in a place now where they don't have your guidance, and now they return to you? How do you cope? How are they coping? What is it like for you?
So the first year when we were back in person, it was based on if their parents wanted to send them. So I didn't have many students at all. Some of my classes I only had 2 kids in front of me, maybe. Some classes no kids in front of me, but everybody was virtual, which was still very hard because nobody wanted to turn on their cameras. Um, they may turn their microphone on, trying to have discussions with them. It was very hard, even doing the social emotional part of it, giving them activities that where they could explain, how they're feeling. They just did not want to open up. So that was, while the pandemic was still taking place. And then returning to school. So the first year returning to school after. So when everybody is back now, boy, if I could say my toughest year yet would have been that year. 21,
Wow.
22, my toughest year yet. And not in regards to the teaching. It's just they spent so much time away from their friends, maybe unsupervised because maybe their parents were at work while they were home. But their growth was stunted. Their social growth was stunted.
Yeah, I
Emotional
remember this.
stunted completely. So when they returned, it was chaos. Because now imagine you have not seen your friends for an extended period of time. So you're around your friends, you're seeing what, okay, hey, we're back. But they're not worried about education. They were more so worried about friendships, relationships, because I teach the high school age level. And they were just running rampant. So most of
Wow.
my year was spent talking to them about integrity, honesty, responsibility, learning how to engage with others. I had so many students that just had no interest in working with anybody else. Socially, they just completely
They disconnected.
disconnected. So it was a year of me, yes, giving instruction because that is what you're supposed to do as a teacher. But honestly, I spent so much time, so many of my class periods talking about life and how to move on past the pandemic. I had a lot of students who lost parents. I had a lot of students who lost family members and friends. And how then can you go in and say, yes, we're learning this today when I know that they are not okay mentally?
Mentally, and as you talk about, the mental aspect of our children, Candice, do you believe that now, since we have gone through COVID-19, we have not gone through it, we're not past it, right? But do you believe now that we need to include mental wellness, mental health, as a part of our curriculum for our children in schools?
Definitely. I am big on mental health awareness. Like I said before, the standpoint of social emotional learning, it's very important. And even now, so the teacher, the educator, the administrators, like we got burnt out over the pandemic, like Riza said. Um, we had to be checking ourselves too. And so,
Yes.
you know, I am happy to say I was one of these people who knew that I needed a break and I cried for help. And so I
Right.
took a sabbatical, a year off, and it was one of the most rewarding experience that I was able to do that. And now I'm back in the classroom. I am back with a new burst of energy, still the social emotional teacher, but just very different, very flexible, very understanding. Like Riza said, a lot of people lost family members. Like we're still in the, it's not post pandemic, I would say. We're still
It's not.
in it.
We're still there.
We're
Mhm.
still there, but
Mhm.
things have, like, we have changed as a people, and we have become more flexible. And I used to teach, like I said, this from the social emotional standpoint, but even more so, like, yes, we're called to teach the reading and the math, but you better believe I'm going to make sure that if I can get 90% to 100% of my students feeling well about themselves, feeling successful, because once you teach someone that they can be successful, or once you let them feel a certain way, then they begin to start, feeling that way,
Right,
that
right.
they
Yeah.
can do it.
It's a form of motivation, and I'm going to move to Winifred now because
Yes.
you spoke something very important, and I think it's important so much for Winifred because she spoke about her students believing that education is a scam, right? After leaving school, they are stuck, right? And so before I get to you, Winifred, we talk about the technology, the introduction of the technology. Now, during the pandemic, a number of us, even to include myself, wasn't so much into the social media. It was during the pandemic I decided to go on LinkedIn, but because I wanted something to do. Yes, I had work because the hotels were closed, but there was still work to be done. But I had most of my time at home, and I was beginning to look like a lizard on the wall. And so I decided that, I needed social media now. I used to shy away from it. No, as an adult, you're better able to manage your space and manage what you put out there. But with the social media and it becoming the thing where now we have children who are earning more than what we're earning as teachers. Can I repeat that? Children who are earning way more than, and I say us because I still do teach. I was a teacher at the high school level. And then now I am a lecturer. I lecture part-time. So I teach, persons who are doing their degrees. So maybe not at that level, but at one point I was at that level. So I understand somewhat, right? So you have children who are earning way much, and here is how they're earning these things too. What we are telling them in the classroom about social graces, emotional intelligence, good values and ethics, they are earning way more than what teachers are earning on these social media platforms, doing the opposite. Doing the opposite. Now, Winifred, I want you to tell me, how do you motivate your children? How do you stay grounded as a teacher? A child comes to you and say, well, miss, I am on this social media platform. You tell me that education is the key. I need to get a degree, but here I am, miss, you have a degree, and what I'm earning on this platform is more than your salary, and what I'm doing on this platform is opposite that of what you're telling me to do. How do you stay grounded, and how do you have that child still believe in education?
For asking. Okay, so one thing I always hold there is the fact that students don't care how much you know, but they want to know how much you care. So when you have their best interest at heart and you're telling them, for your future, it is safe to do things in ethical and legal way. So because most of what these younger persons are doing on the social media, it's not ethical. They're not making money the ethical way. Some of them go around scamming people of their hard-earned money, and then all of those stuff. Meanwhile, to point it out, my kids are between 9 and 13. Most of them do not have smartphones, not to talk of being on social media. But of course, I have young persons around me that are doing these things. So what I try to tell them is that what you're doing right now is like instant gratification. It won't take you far. You have to think
Right.
in 5 years time, 10 years time to this time that I am now. Who do I want to be? What do I want to be
Mhm,
known for in my life? So I try to make them see the bigger picture, not just
mhm.
what is happening instantly.
Do
So
they
that's my.
listen? Do
What
they
did you
listen
say?
to you? Do they listen? Do they
Yeah,
listen?
they do most of the time, but I know that whether they take it to heart and then work towards it, I have done my part by saying it actually to them. And I have
Mhm,
shown to them that I care, right? So that's
mhm,
what I do most of the time. Make you understand the disadvantages of what you're doing and then show you the
mhm,
bigger picture, and using my life as a reference. That's what I do. Even though it's not working at the moment, I know that, words are very powerful. It will stay with them for a long time. And when that word come back to them later in the future, when they say, oh, Miss Winifred said this to me at some point, it will make them think again and try to realign their values in life. So I believe it's gonna work. It's like a long-term plan for me because I know they can hear me now, but of course the words are sinking in their hearts whether they like it or not.
They're
Right.
right.
So
It's
that
right there. You're printing it on their brain. You're putting it in their memory, so it's there. Yes. Sherwin, I know you say you said that you teach 13 upward. Do you find that it is still difficult? Here's where I'm going. All of us in a classroom right now, our behavior change instantly. We become children. Yes, we
Mhm.
become children. As teachers, we become children. Yes. And I'm asking this question because I recognize that, you know, they say that adult learning is different and the language and how you engage is different. For me, I really don't find it that different.
Mm.
For you, do you find your group, your children, or should I say your learners, interested in learning? And do you find it challenging? Are there challenges in terms of, values and morals that you need to impart upon them for a better tomorrow?
Um, well, for me, you see, I tend to embrace all the changes that's
Mhm,
happening.
mhm,
Um, One of the reasons, so my background is in marketing and film production as well.
right.
So I tend to bring that into the classroom. And when I'm teaching, okay, so when I'm teaching my high school students, they love to hear about what I am actually doing outside of the classroom. I think that engages them even more. They want to know, okay, miss, you know, there's a saying, I can remember one child said to me one time, um, those who can't do teach. And I laughed. I laughed and I said, hey, be careful what you're saying because don't watch me in the classroom. I run businesses outside the classroom. So don't, and that made him perk up straight away. He wanted to know, oh, what do you do? How do you do it? And then when I was able to bring that to the classroom for them, I got a lot more respect from that child who left school and passed business studies. Okay, so I tend to encourage them to try out their things. Like, for example, we were speaking about social media earlier. I've had students who make loads of money on social media, loads. And how do I engage them when they're already making money? I show them how to scale up. I say, okay,
Mhm,
you're doing this. How about you scale up? How about you invest in that to scale up and do this and do that? So it's not just the now for now, it's the long term, like you said, thinking about it outside the box, thinking long term and how can I keep that money coming in? And they love that. They love that type of input. Um, my students, again, mainly I would say mainly my younger ones, there of course there will be some who are disengaged, and meeting with them, or meeting them halfway, or just trying to encourage them, I would bring things like I would engage in external organizations so that they could come in or speak to them. We'll have a Zoom or something, and they would get to experience what it is like running an actual business, and what it entails, and so on and so forth. And that's how I tend to get them on board. My older students, it's about just understanding where they are. Are you doing business for A levels? What do you want to gain from that? Is it to go to university, or is it to start your own business? If it is they want to start their own businesses, then I would engage with them on a more enterprise level, and get them help them start their own businesses. If you want to set up a company, I would help you set up a company and work with you on that. So it's about, the different levels, keeping them showing interest in what it is they're doing, what their reason for doing business, and just keep showing them that, what, I'm there. And like I said
Brilliant.
before, it has meant that I spend a lot of time answering not private emails, but emails from kids after hours.
Right.
Miss, this has happened, that has happened, or I got this, I got that. So it's yes, on one hand, it's it's really, really good, and it's really it's something that it has a lot of feel good factor to it when I know that I'm actually helping a child set up their business or
And
run
it
their
takes a lot of
business.
time,
But
Sherwin.
it takes
It's not
time.
easy. It
It's
takes a lot of
not
time.
easy at all. It's not easy
It
at
takes a
all.
lot
It
of
takes a
time.
lot of time. Yeah.
A lot of time outside of the classroom, a lot
That's
of time.
right.
And it
That's
brings
right.
me to my next question, and I'm throwing it out to the group. As teachers, as educators, do you believe you are supported sufficiently to take on the battles? And I thought, well, let me not use such a strong word. Here in Jamaica, sometimes it's a battle. Clive would agree with me with some of the things that happens in our classroom. But to take on some of the challenges that you are faced with daily, and I'm not just talking about, resources. It's an amalgamation of a number of things: the resources, your own mental state, the indiscipline in the classroom safety. When you dress for the classroom these days, do you feel safe going to that space? Do you educators believe you are supported sufficiently as teachers in the classroom?
If I may start there, I'll say we are not supported fully in the classroom. It's unfortunate, but I guess we have chosen a career that can make the difference in their lives, and hoping then that through that the support will come eventually, not in our time, but in the next generation to come. When
Right.
Candice mentioned about teaching from the emotional and social standpoint, it is very profound.
Right.
In my lesson plan, one state that I put in it, I learned it earlier, and I always include this in my lesson plan. Before starting a lesson, I must put my student at ease. Must.
Right.
And how do I put them at ease? I'm going to be finding out what is happening with them. Because you may have somebody coming in, somebody was killed for them the day before, or
Wow.
they have witnessed something. So, how are you going to be teaching that child if you don't know what is happening to them? So, I will always put that in, and so we have at least a 10 minutes discussion before. And in it, I would put in the lesson plan discussion on current events,
Right.
putting my student at ease so they will state. I must add that sometimes it may take much more than 10 minutes. But
Right.
if it takes the entire time for me to put my student at ease, therefore my next lesson can be effective. And I think that's what Riza said when she mentioned what the work that she had to do. If that is what it takes, then we have to do it. But is the support coming from parents and otherwise? In some cases, no. But unfortunately, some of them can't do better. They
Right.
don't know
And
how to do better.
why some of our parents can't do better?
They
Why do
don't
you
know
believe?
how to do better. They were never ever trained are develop as parents. If you look at what is happening, children are having children.
Children.
And as a result of that, the morals have breakdown. The norms have gone. So we are fighting now a battle to educate the children with the social graces that they were never ever
Never
taught at home.
thought. Never
You're
thought
never
about.
ever taught. But sometimes we expect them to know, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not possible because they don't. So our work is more compound. And therefore, if we were getting now additional help from just like what was mentioned earlier by Sherwin, you're bringing in persons to come and help them, that would be fine. But it should not be on our time because it's
Right.
taken away from the teaching and learning time. So
Yes.
things like those ought to be addressed so that we can have a better system going forward. Our students would appreciate it much more. I share one experience, and this would when Winifred mentioned that she stated categorically that she tell the students, I have had an experience where a young man said, I personally want to kill you.
Wow.
I don't want nobody else to kill you. I personally want to kill you because to him, I was doing him injustice by providing him with the information and ensuring that it is not a question if it must be done. It's a command because
Right.
this is going to make your life better.
Mm-hmm.
After he graduated, I think it could be about 2 or 3 years later, I was in a community and I saw a car drove me down and bumped me to the side of the road. And when I look, who was that? That same young man. And he said, Sir, and I'm there watching to see what was going to happen. And he said, Sir, me have to come give you a check, you know. This was the person who wanted to kill me personally.
Right.
After that, another day I was in the same area and I saw a car pull up beside mine. And him says, Sir, what go on? I said, what happened? He said, Sir, me have to tell you, you know. I'm glad for you do for me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Him said,
Mm-hmm.
today I own 3 cars. I use 2 for rental and 1 to run taxi. And all
Mm-hmm.
this happened because of what you did for me.
Wow.
Now, I could have stopped because when a young man say him personally want to kill you, it's not easy.
Right.
But this is what they are facing in their communities. So I guess as teachers, Winifred, we understand the challenges, but we just have to go and do what we have to do. They will, they will appreciate it someday. Maybe not all, but a number of them will. And they'll be
Thank you
thanking you
so
for
very
it.
much. Thank you so very much. Candice Riser, how do
Sure.
you feel? How do you believe you can be supported more in the classroom? You've heard what Clive is it similar for you as well? You know, I mean, based on what Clive just shared with us, and how do you believe you can be supported more as teachers?
Okay, so I want to chime in as it relates to what Clive said. First, I just want to give a quick story of a friend that we went to Teachers College together. She now lives in the Cayman Islands and she teaches prisoners. And I remember she said that one of the prisoners came to her, like they're very harsh. And one said that he wanted to kill her, Clive, just like you stated. And she said to him, because she's very like funny, she'll be like, yeah, man, yeah, you can kill me after, but come do my work first. I'm gonna speak
Wow.
in our dialect. So she's like, yeah, man, you can't kill me after, but you know what I want you to do? Come do the work. And basically, like she was telling him, like, yeah, you can kill me, that's fine. I'm not worried about that, but I care about your well-being and come and do the work. And I guess eventually he left prison and went back into society. And she said the same young man came to her and said, boy, miss me, really appreciate you, when I was going through the struggle and all that I was going through, you were there for me. And suppose you were a different person and she, would have reacted a different way, like go call
Mhm.
the authorities, go,
Right,
go through the
right.
proper channels. But she
Mhm.
was like, you know what, I'm not even gonna watch him, what he's saying. So this moves to the point that I want to make, is that grace. Risa, if you're in Broward County, are you
Yes, I am.
okay? So you are with our superintendent, Dr. Vicky Cartwright, our new superintendent. And there's one word that I don't know the whole slogan, but grace. And that word grace, I think it does So love, as usual, covers a multitude of sin, and but the word grace, what the word grace means is unmerited favor that we do not deserve. So for
Mhm.
us, it's more grace. For the students, it's more grace. For our colleagues or administrators, for everyone in this field, it's just more grace. And that's
Mhm.
how we're coping, by grace.
By
That's what
grace.
I wanted to
Virgo.
say.
Absolutely.
And grace on top of grace equal more grace in my Jamaican.
Ah, do you understand that, Winifred? That's the Jamaican dialect. Grace pan tapa grace means grace nuff 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 means a lot of grace in English, right? So,
Yeah, so I do believe that they are trying to support us as much. I feel now more so I would like to see more support from parents, but I understand that it's not always available. But
Mhm.
I feel as though if maybe everybody was on the same team, things would start going in a better direction.
Right.
Um, but I do understand that not everybody comes from a home where that is available and allowed. And going back to, I believe it was said, now kids are having kids. So
Mhm.
unfortunately, when that is occurring, if you're not reaching those milestones and learning what you need to learn prior to having your kids, you're not imparting that information. So you have a cycle where nobody has learned it initially to pass it on. So I am also now trying to show them, okay, here's how you do X, Y, and Z. This is what you need to do. This is how you operate, especially my young ladies, telling them this is how you should be. This is how you need to respect yourself, self love, all of these things. But it's hard because they're not seeing it. A lot of
Mhm.
times they'll show me their social media, like, oh, look at this. And I'm thinking, oh, that's your sister. Oh, no, that's my mom. And I'm like, oh, like, because, wow,
Yes.
because there's nothing wrong with parents, I wouldn't say being closely related to their child, but
But
I
there has
do
to be
believe that
some
there
boundaries.
has to be a boundary. I've been seeing a lot of, what my students are doing is the same thing that the parents are doing. So of course they're going to come into school and be more focused on, say, drugs or, sex, etc., because that's what they're around. And for a long time it kind of baffled me because when I was in school, when I was in high school, I never, I didn't even know if anybody was doing those things because it was never
Right.
spoken about. Whereas now it's all
It's
out on
out
the
there.
table. And I tell my
It's
students, I said, you guys are more experienced than I am, and I am so much older than you. And they're like, come on, miss. And I'm like, mm-mm, you guys are very experienced.
right.
So I feel as we had a little bit more support in that area, or maybe I don't even know how that support would actually take place because, like I said, those milestones and those steps that needed to have been taken were missed. So, if maybe we had a time that was outside of classroom, and I've actually been saying this to a few of my colleagues, that there needs to be more that social emotional part. Yes, I can do my part in the classroom, but I think it's 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 visible that they need so much more. They need so much more than what the teacher will give them, and maybe a third of their class time. They need more than that. And
Mhm.
I can sit here and say, yes, my conversation, yes, it's going to change. It'll be in the back of their mind. They'll think about it, a few months from now, a couple of years from now. But there are so many other parts of their life that need to be dealt with. A lot of other parts of their mental that needs to be dealt with that I have not been trained for that. So yes, I can talk,
Exactly.
I can help them to identify some of their feelings, but
Mhm.
they need that time to truly unpack what it is that they have been dealing with, at home or with their friends, or even, personally, that I do not feel as though I am fully equipped because, of course, that was not what I went to school
You
for.
weren't,
I did not go to
you weren't
school for
trained that way.
mental health. That's not what I, if I
Right.
did, that would be a great, and I would be able to offer them that aspect as well. But because I have not, it makes it kind of hard for me to really dive into it, because once you dive into it, you have to be prepared if they fully open up. You get
Mhm.
me? And you don't want to be in a position
Exactly.
where they fully open up and now you cannot handle everything, you know, and then you still have to refer them to somebody else. And it's kind of on a case-by-case basis. There are over 2,000 students in my school, and we have a handful of counselors, family counselors, school psychologists, a handful. So just imagine them trying to schedule all of these children, and they all, in my opinion, they all need to speak with somebody. This week alone, I had 5 students that I need to refer to the counselor because they come to class and they have their head down. So I'm thinking, okay, you know, maybe you're tired. So I go, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And when they lift their head up, they are crying silently, like completely. And I'm just like, did something happen? You know, what's going on? And they're telling me, you know, I just woke up and this is just how I feel.
Wow,
And
the
I have to refer
moods.
them to somebody. And it's on more than one occasion this week that has been the case, or they're having their panic attacks, or you know, something has triggered a memory. You know, it's never ending, and it's just something that, along with teaching, and all of my classes are 35 students and up. So I have 35
5 students
yes
in
per
one
school.
class?
Yes, some like 40. So just imagine you're dealing with the regular, you know, discipline issues, uh, the kids who want to challenge me because, you know, they right now they feel as though, going back to the whole thing with social media and where society is right now, they don't feel like school or education is very important.
It's
So
important.
they're there because they have to be there, but they don't want to be there. So it's
The-
like, you know, trying to nudge them in the right direction, but they don't see the benefit of it. Then, you know, I have my students who emotionally are not okay. They're dealing with things at home, whether they're in foster care, they're homeless. And then I have the students that are into the wrong things, drugs, sex. They're into that. So I'm also dealing with the student who is visibly on something, and I'm having to deal with that, the panic attacks. Then, you know, just regular conflict that students have. They're young. They don't know how to work through their emotions. So just imagine trying to do your lesson, but you're looking at 40 kids and there's all of these things happening. So do I feel supported? No, because I also have to check myself, and I have to make sure that I'm okay. I also have the aspect of, I wake up every day going to work knowing this could be the day. Today could
oh
be the day
wow.
that something could go terribly wrong. And because I, you know, my own personal feelings about how security is handled in schools and what they could and, you know, should do, but they refuse to do, I also have that aspect of fear, but it doesn't outweigh my, you know, the rest of the things that I need to do because I still have a job and a task to do. But there's also that. So do I feel fully supported in the classroom? No, I don't.
No.
Because there are so many things that could be done, um, that I don't know if they
Are
think.
given any much attention right
Yes,
now.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow, what a powerful hour it has been. It's an hour since we've been here, which brings us to the end of the show. We can see that the experience is similar, whether you're in Nigeria, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in England, or whether you're in Jamaica. So we are experiencing similar situations in the classroom. I need to hear from each of you. Nothing is perfect and nowhere is perfect and no one is perfect. But if we could get a classroom that would reflect a better society, that would give hope that there is a better future, what would that classroom look like in your eyes? And let me hear from Sherwin first.
That one, I don't even know where to start with that one.
It's hard,
Um,
right? To
I
envision it.
think I
Envision.
think for me it's a better classroom. I think it starts with respect. It starts with us as the adults, especially with the younger ones. Respecting them and getting
Right.
respect back from them.
Mhm.
Um, and also having systems in place to support the teachers, not just in and around the classroom of learning, but also with well-being as well. because if I feel safe, if I feel supported, I will produce better work.
Wow.
So it's with working with schools, working with governments to implement things that will help teachers and give us the support we need, because it's definitely not here. Um, a better classroom, I think it does not even start in the classroom. It starts with the parents, having the parents working with us, making sure everybody's on the same page and we're all a team. The school having good behavior systems in place. So when we do get the students who are having maybe an off day or something, there are things in place to manage behavior. And yeah, it's how do we ensure that these kids are ready to take on society? So I think it starts from a place of respect, and it also starts from having parents on board to support. I think most parents experience what it's like to be a teacher over the pandemic, so they didn't know a lot of the work that was being put into teaching. So
They
I
want
hope
the school to reopen in the middle
exactly,
of
and
the
I hope they get
pandemic.
a better understanding of what it is to be a teacher, and hopefully we'll get a little more respect from them or engagement. And I think for me, that's it. It's respect and teamwork.
Thank you so very much, Sherwin. Winifred, the
Thanks.
same question to you. If you could envision a classroom a class, the teaching experience that will allow for a better future, what would that class look like for you, or school? Hold on, Winifred. I think you're muted. Okay, go. Unmute yourself, Winifred. We're not hearing you. I think. Oh, go ahead. It's muted again. Okay, Winifred.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. All right. For the question, a class I would envision, for me, I'd say a classroom where the children, the kids, the learners, and the teachers have a clear vision and a clear goal that they are gonna achieve together. So when you let your kids know that, okay, this is where we are heading, this is the learning outcome I want you all to have by so time, I think it will spark their interest in wanting to learn. And then underlying that is the love factor, which has to be, well grounded. Let the children know that you care enough for them. You're not just after what you want to teach them, but actually after their well-being and their life as a person. So beyond this, I would advocate for the government support. Concerning my country, Nigeria, teachers are not being well, I say, compensated, and then people don't respect the profession at all. When you tell someone I'm a teacher, they'll go, "Really? Don't you have any other job to do?" Something like that, and they feel like the profession has been condemned because, of course, the government is doing little to nothing about um, helping these teachers become well paid, and aside that, the support they need, even aside finance, because there's some support you need in schools where you need enough, for instance, desks, in classrooms to accommodate your kids. Like Riza mentioned earlier, I heard she said she has about 40 learners in her classroom. Well, the case is worse in Nigeria because sometimes you could have as high as 100 students in a class, and just one teacher is going to handle that. So, for me, because I'm in Nigeria, I feel like we need a lot of government support in order to be able to the way we really want to do it. Because sometimes you get to class, you're tired yourself as a teacher, and then the kids are throwing tantrums because maybe the heat is too much. When they are too much in a class, they are not also feeling comfortable. And the learning would probably not take place or would amount to nothing because both of you are not comfortable. So the government should support. That's the kind of school that I envision. Government support, full government support, and then teachers and learners, driving towards the same goal. And then the last part as well, because some of us they are not in learn. They already have a clear ambition for their kids. They'll be like, I want you to be this person. So whether the kid goes to school or not, the kids come back. They start putting the kid in the path they want him or her to follow. So that is is like the teachers are wasting their efforts on such kids because most times their minds are not in what they came to school to learn because they know they are going back home to start another kind of school on their own because their parents are going to take it up from them for what kids are learning in school. So those are the three key things I feel like when these things are in place, then yes, the classroom is good to go.
All right. Thank you, Winifred. The audio is a little bit distorted. Candice, how about you? If there should be that classroom that would affect a better future, what would that look like for you?
So I want to say that I'm going to speak from a realist point of view, that I could, tell you all the things I envision, but I feel like I've been in it long enough to know that the things that I envision won't necessarily happen. But what I can say is to give two words: repair and restore. We have gone through a pandemic. Before that, it was tough and it was rough. But even now, more that we've gone through. So it's like a rebuilding of the walls. We need to repair, we need to restore, and this is for all shareholders. So once we work together, so what I would maybe envision is collaboration. And
Collaboration, teachers, parents,
right, for
government,
us to
institution.
repair and to restore. And once we have that collaboration, then we can rebuild the
Okay.
social, emotional, physical walls, etc.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so very much. Collaboration. Riza, how about you? What would that look like for you if we could have such a space that will, give hope for a brighter, better tomorrow?
Well, it would be very hard for me to come up with my perfect classroom because realistically, I don't see us going back. We're only going forward. Um, but the collaboration aspect, making sure everybody's on the same page. We are a team. We're not fighting against one another, and I think that would be very important from the very top, from the state, the government, all the way down to as simple as, the parents and all the way down even to the student for them to understand that, us as teachers, we're there to assist them as they're navigating through this space and hopefully helping them to prepare them to navigate through life after they leave us. But if I was to say in a very perfect instance, I would not have social media as
As an inclusion.
yeah, as an inclusion, because, and it's not to say that all social media is bad, but I can
Yeah.
definitely see how it has
I
affected
understand where
our
you're getting
students.
at. You know,
Yeah.
you said something earlier while we were discussing that, in your days, in, our time, growing up as children in the classroom, things were happening, but it's not like you were in the know, The world has become so small now because of this. And what this did, and I'm talking about technology, what it does, I mean, it's a combination of good and bad. But because it's in the hands of the vulnerable who are still learning about themselves. They don't know how to handle some of these information. We're losing culture. So all of us want to look the same and talk the same despite our own culture. We're losing values. So all of us, and it is true that we quickly adapt to the negative things within the society than the positive. And so all of these combine with the social media, the access, so we can sit here and be in the living room of somebody in Ukraine, and it is impacting us. And it's just true. It's just true.
Yes.
Once
So
it's not monitored properly. So I saw that you were a little bit hesitant in saying it, but you can say it. I agree. I
yes, because I do
completely
understand the great things that have come from us having this type of technology. I'm able to see somebody on the opposite side of the world, and they have
exactly.
great talents and this great knowledge that I didn't even know about. But at the same
Mhm.
time, I see the downfalls. I have plenty of students who, when I'm trying to teach them how to write scientific papers, what is a credible source and what is not a credible source. And they are learning things from social media that are not even close to the truth, along with the other aspects of them being so impressionable and them having everything at their fingertips that you know they
Yeah.
should not have that access to. But in a
So
perfect classroom,
it's
I
the
would like
absence of the social media.
a little bit of a break from social media so that they could, learn the correct
Focus.
morals and values that they should be learning at this age and stage of life.
Thank you. Clive?
I would take it from a point where I'd expound on Candy's statement about collaboration. I'd want to see a classroom where teachers and the school system is not seen as an educated daycare center by parents, but an inclusion whereby parents are appreciating the fact that their students, their children are coming to school to get an education that could make them more marketable, a better person.
Right.
And if that is done, then I do believe we would have a better school system. One whereby I would also want to see the government, the private sector, and the other stakeholders putting the interest in to see how best they can facilitate the teachers in getting the necessary resources that are required so that we can train the students in a better manner. And the teachers will collaborate with the parents in a manner whereby you share informations more readily to parents of what is happening so that you can get a reaction from them. That is the type of school system that I'd want to see. The facilities, the physical facilities are in place, the social amenities are taken care of, and therefore, of course, when I became a teacher, I did not think about the salary because in my profession I could make far more
Yeah. Yeah.
than than what
What
I'm
you're
making in
making as a
teaching.
teacher.
But
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying then that you just want to see that type of respect comes along, whereby students and parents appreciate what you're doing, put out the extra work, and then the final phase of it, I'd want to see a situation where a student feel then that when they leave school, they can be gainfully employed or create an employment. So
Mm-hmm.
even if they're not gainfully employed by someone else, they can now create their own employment. That is what I would say a school system
So we teach
should
our
always be.
children to become entrepreneurs and not just to
Entrepreneurs.
tell them to become
Entrepreneurs.
doctors, lawyers, teachers,
No,
but to
no.
teach them to become entrepreneurs.
And this is
Thank you
something
so
that
very
I've
much.
told my children from an early stage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Brilliant. It's been a wonderful hour and 20 minutes speaking with you, educators. I've learned a lot. I have come to appreciate more, our teachers and what, we all are going through. More so you, because, I mean, you're dealing with it from all angles. You are appreciated. I want to personally say a big thank you for the work that you have been doing and continue to do the work of grooming our young minds to become better adults in the future. Do not be dismayed and do not be deterred by the peripherals of life. I call it the peripherals of life. Be grounded, stay strong, and use grace and love, as Candice mentioned, in all that you do as a part of their ingredient in molding our young minds. Thank you so very much for joining us here on the Nightcap program. And let us continue the discussion somehow, somewhere. And I hope somewhere, someone would be listening who can, participate in this change, not just to make the facility better, where we're giving more desk in the classroom, we're painting the classroom, but also to make this space a better space for not only the children, but for our teachers. Our teachers need help as well and need us to ensure that they maintain their sanity. They're doing a lot in the classroom now in order to, groom our children. And so we must not forget our teachers, the brilliant minds that are grooming the brilliant minds of the future. Thank you so very much, Candice, Sherwin, Winifred, Riza, Clive, for joining me here on the Nightcap program. And as I say, always be inspired.